5 guards under 6 feet tall, on the same roster. After getting swept in the first round by a team that physically dominated them in every single paint touch, every single possession that mattered. The Indiana Fever just added another small guard this offseason, and nobody in that front office seems to think that's a problem. Meanwhile, Aliyah Boston just signed the richest contract in WNBA history. The Aces are quietly building something terrifying, and the gap between Las Vegas and Indiana is growing wider every single week. Today, we're breaking down exactly what's happening, why it should concern every Fever fan watching, and what championship roster construction actually looks like compared to what Indiana is doing. Welcome to Simply Explained. Let's get into it. Before we go any further, if you're new here, Simply Explained is where we break down the stories behind the stories. No filler, no fluff, just the real analysis that actually makes sense of what's happening in the sports world. If this kind of content hits different for you, hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps more people find the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're dropping content consistently and you don't want to miss what's coming next. And drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you trust the Fever front office to build a real contender around Caitlin Clark? I want to know exactly where you stand. All right, let's get into the full breakdown. When the Fever got swept in the first round last season, the film told a story so clear that even casual fans could read it. Opponents went straight to the paint, over and over, because they knew Aliyah Boston was working without a real partner down low. There was no legitimate backup center absorbing punishment and keeping the physical standard high. Boston was carrying the interior almost entirely alone, and eventually, the weight showed. Every coaching staff in that league has scouts. Every team circled Indiana's size weakness before the series even started, and they attacked it without mercy until the Fever were eliminated. So, what does a front office do when they've been physically dominated inside and picked apart by teams with size advantages? If you're building smart, you find your backup center first. You find a wing with length who can guard multiple positions and take pressure off your star. You address the structural weakness before anything else. The film never lies, and that film was available for everyone to study. Indiana's answer? Sign another guard under 5'9". Another player who fits the exact profile they already have 4 of. Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, Raven Johnson, and now another guard in the same mold added to the pile. This isn't depth building. This isn't savvy roster management. This is collecting the same type of player repeatedly, while the actual problems on this team go completely unaddressed. And it's starting to look less like an oversight and more like a philosophy, one that's already been proven wrong once. To understand just how alarming Indiana's approach really is, you have to look at what the rest of the league is doing this offseason, because the contrast is staggering. The Phoenix Mercury brought in Kara Dunn, Shayski, and Yarden Gars for training camp. Shayski is a name worth knowing. She's skilled, she can create, and while her handle against elite defensive pressure still needs refinement, you can develop playmaking. You cannot teach size, and you cannot manufacture versatility through desire alone. Phoenix is bringing in players who fill specific roles and push the entire roster to compete harder every single day. That's what training camp is supposed to look like. Connecticut made a move that didn't get the headlines it deserved. They brought back Harmony Turner, a player with genuine upside who gives the Sun another option they can grow with. Connecticut is thinking both short-term and long-term simultaneously, staying competitive while planting seeds for what comes next. That's not easy to do. Most front offices can't manage it. And then there's Las Vegas, who we're getting to fully in just a moment. But as a preview, the Aces are operating in a completely different stratosphere right now. They're not just staying ahead of the league, they're actively pulling away from it. While other franchises are still trying to figure out what they are, the Aces have already answered that question and are focused entirely on widening the gap. Indiana, watching all of this unfold, somehow decided the right response was to keep doing what wasn't working. Aliyah Boston just made history, and the entire sports world should be paying attention. The WNBA's first ever 4-time MVP signed a 3-year, $5 million Supermax deal with the Las Vegas Aces, the richest contract ever handed out in women's basketball. And before the broader conversation about whether WNBA salaries should be even higher gets started, yes, that conversation is valid and ongoing. But in the context of where this league currently stands, this is a landmark moment. This is the Aces declaring, without any ambiguity whatsoever, that they are building around this woman for the long haul. Wilson earns that designation every single time she steps on the floor. 4 MVP awards. 2 championships. She is the most dominant player in this league right now, not the most marketed, the most dominant. There is a difference, and with Wilson, that difference matters because her dominance is consistent and suffocating. Every team in the league builds their defensive scheme around trying to slow her down. Locking her up for 3 more years isn't just smart business, it's a statement. But here's where it gets genuinely dangerous for everyone else. They didn't just re-sign Wilson and call it a day. Kelsey Plum is still there. Chelsea Gray is still there. Jackie Young is still there. 3 Olympians. 3 players who already know what winning in June feels like. The championship core is fully intact, and that alone makes Las Vegas the measuring stick against which every other roster decision in this league should be judged. The Aces added Tamara Young on a training camp contract, and if you watched her in Chicago last season, you already understand why this matters. Reports suggest Young was arguably the most impactful player on that Sky roster in 2024, an all-star caliber guard who brings something genuinely rare to the position. And what makes her special connects directly to what Indiana is missing, so pay attention to this part. Most guards in this league, even talented ones, share a habit that coaches spend careers trying to fix. When a trap comes, they panic and turn their backs to the pressure. Suddenly, they've lost sight of the entire floor, can't see their teammates, can't read the defense rotating, just reacting instead of thinking. At that point, the trap has already done its job, even if the ball is still in their hands. Young does the opposite. She steps back, keeps her eyes forward, faces the trap as it arrives, and surveys the entire floor in real time. She can see the rotation collapsing and identify the open player before the defense even finishes recovering. Reports suggest she'll even dribble through the trap entirely. That's how much confidence she carries in her handle and her instincts. That's basketball intelligence built over years of playing under real pressure. The Aces also drafted Janiyah Barker raw upside, real tools, developing inside a championship organization with championship coaching. Las Vegas isn't just winning now. They're engineering the conditions to keep winning. That's what separates dynasties from one-time champions. Back to Indiana, and specifically to the size problem, because this is the issue that will haunt this team if it isn't resolved before opening night. Damaris Dantas is a skilled player. She can stretch the floor, she has real feel for the game, and she brings genuine value in the right system. But she is a stretch 4. That is where her game lives. Asking her to function as a legitimate backup 5 to bang inside, protect the rim, contest shots at the basket, and absorb punishment from the league's physical big women is setting her up to fail in a matchup she was never built to handle. Think about what a 6'1" backup center means in practical terms. Every opposing coaching staff will have that matchup circled before tip-off. The moment Aliyah Boston picks up foul trouble or needs a breather in a critical stretch, every team in this league will go straight to the paint until Indiana adjusts or collapses. This is basketball math. Size versus size, and right now the Fever are coming up short every time that equation gets tested. What this team genuinely needs is a rim protector who can keep opponents honest inside, a wing with real length who can guard multiple positions. Versatility and size, the 2 things that would signal the front office actually learned from last year's sweep. Instead, the moves being made raise a real question. Does the front office see what everyone watching the film sees? Or is there something bigger coming that we don't know about yet? There's another story developing in Indiana that's been generating serious heat online, and it connects to some of the uglier sides of sports fandom that tend to make everything louder and messier than it needs to be. When South Carolina faced Iowa in the Final Four, Raven Johnson made Caitlin Clark work for every single basket she scored. Clark still dropped 40 points, but Johnson made sure none of them came easy. That's a real, bankable skill, and it's genuinely rare at any level of basketball. Now, they're teammates. And according to Aliyah Boston, it was handled exactly the way professionals handle it. They talked, cleared the air, and moved forward. Boston said something that deserves to be heard clearly. The fans always have more beef than the players do. And she's right. Fans have sent death threats to kickers who missed game-winning field goals. Fans build feuds and narratives that the players themselves moved past months ago. Players understand it's competition. The ones still holding grudges never laced up at that level. What's worth honest evaluation, separate from all the fan noise, is whether Johnson's addition actually fills a real need. She is an elite defender, quick, aggressive, instinctive. But her offensive game is still developing. Her handle under elite pressure can get shaky. Her three-point consistency isn't there yet. These aren't insults, these are scouting notes. The real question isn't whether Johnson is a good player. She is. The question is whether the Fever needed another defensive guard more than they needed size. And the answer to that seems pretty obvious. Here's the bottom line. The Aces paid their superstar, kept their championship core intact, and added specific pieces that fill specific needs. That's how dynasties get built and maintained. The Fever had an entire offseason to look at the film from that playoff sweep and make decisions that actually addressed what went wrong. Instead, the public-facing moves suggest a front office either misreading its own roster or avoiding the hardest decisions entirely. Caitlin Clark's rookie contract window is open right now. That window does not stay open forever, and every year wasted is a year that cannot be recovered. The pieces to build something real are there. The talent is there. But talent without the right structure around it gets swept in the first round, and Indiana already knows exactly what that feels like. The clock is ticking. The question is whether anyone in that front office is listening. Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear where you stand. Stay locked with my channel Simply Explained for more updates.